Hello, my name is Jeff Rolka. I want to thank you for checking out my video. This is Community Questions 10.5. Because Community Questions 10, I closed the questions, but then loads and loads of really cool questions came in afterwards, and they were really cool. And so I thought, yeah, okay, I'm gonna make an addendum video to 10. So this is the overflow, if you will, from Community Questions 10. Never let a good question go by, because I'm pretty sure someone else is wondering the same thing. I'm not gonna dilly-dally any longer here. I want to dive right into this. Thank you if you've chosen to subscribe. If you haven't yet, I hope you'll do so now. There are myriads of ways of supporting my channel. You can find those in the description. I might add, in this time of crises, if you could support your local authorities, your local health service or healthcare workers, that would probably not go amiss these days either. I hope you are staying safe and that you are well. Now let's look at some questions. I'm having issues with learning how to breathe properly, instead of using the throat to vocalize. I am told in church choir that I should be using my diaphragm more as the engine to sing. Can you please help me with learning how to breathe properly and using my diaphragm as the engine? Maybe. I can certainly tell you what's going on, and whether or not you can implement that is something that you're going to have to detail in your practice. You're going to have to practice it and figure it out. There are a couple big items here. One, the breathing methodology that I teach is called the Apagio Breath Management System. You can find it online. If I can, I'll put a link to a very good one-page website that talks about what Apagio is and how it works. I must tell you that when I learned of Apagio, I realized that I had been using breath management in an entirely incorrect way. But the Apagio system was so different from what I had been told for such a long time that it was hard for me to accept it. And it just didn't make sense to me at all. But I worked and worked and worked on it and checked myself and got with a teacher that could really help me. That was my dear friend and associate, Megan Dibble, who really helped me to figure this out and taught me how to do it. And that has made the most significant difference of any technical change I have made to any of my musicianship skills. Adopting Apagio transformed my ability to sing consistently and use my voice the way I wanted to. It is somewhat, there's a lot to the technique, and you can get into the musculature and the specifics of it as deeply as you wish to go. But if I were going to boil it down to two main concepts, it's expansion and persistence of engagement. By expansion, I mean that when I'm at rest, my rib cage is here. And when I'm going to sing, my rib cage comes out here. At that point, my core body muscles can lift towards my sternum, and they engage with the diaphragm. The diaphragm presses back against them, and that's what creates the subglottic air pressure that we use to vocalize. That may sound rather conflicting with things you've been taught in the past, especially if you've been taught to stick that out and suck it back in. Because when you go from here to here, at no point does this protrude outwards. Here is the big finishing point to this whole technique, however, is that if I'm here, notice how my ribcage stays expanded. Now I'm done and I can relax. The ribcage is meant to stay in that laterally expanded position the entire time. techniques. That is a synopsis of Apogeo. Work on that, and I think that your breathing will show you a lot more of what your voice can do. I think it will increase your phrase lengths and make the overall consistency of your phonation very, very good. It certainly did for me. Can you talk about rock singing voice, compression, and other techniques to avoid damaging permanently the voice? Lose your voice. Okay. When I've worked with people who use the terminology vocal compression, mostly what we have, because I don't use that term in my teaching, I can only, and I have not worked with someone, I've not worked with any teachers that use that term in their teaching. What I have come to understand as vocal compression is what in my teaching I have learned to call vocal fold adduction, which is to say the vocal folds coming to meet. How they meet is a lot of what our sound becomes. So if they are meeting too loosely, that's quite too loosely, you get that very airy sound. If they're meeting with too much force, they're squeezing, then it kind of sounds squeezy. And that tends to be very, very tiring. If you're worried about losing your voice, or if you're dealing with an awful lot of vocal fatigue, it would behoove you to find the most efficient mode of vocal fold adduction, and then adjust from there to get the artistic affectation that you want. So rock singer voice could be any number of different things. If we're talking about Axl Rose, it's one thing. If we're talking about Bon Iver, who, I mean, I don't know if he's really a rock star or not, but I kind of think of him that way. He certainly plays big enough venues to be thought of as a rock star. That means something else. Furthermore, if you listen to a Jeff Tweedy, he uses his voice in a variety of different ways. And furthermore, I would say even Bono. Now, whether you like U2 or not, Bono uses his voice in a variety of ways that demonstrate a very, very prodigious control of the instrument. The underlying factor of all of this is starting from a neutral tone production. So once you can align your vowels, so that your vocal folds are meeting efficiently without overly squeezing nor separating and getting too breathy, then you can make artistic choices about and decide what you want to do artistically with the music that you're singing. But it starts at the neutral, efficient tone production, which is basically what my entire channel is about, getting you to neutral. I'm kind of dabbling in some other topics, and there's going to be a video coming out very soon about having that breathy voice. But again, it comes back to neutral. Start there, and then you can do a variety of other things with it. I do hope that helps. Hi, Jeff. Which is the right way to work out the voice? I mean, should I repeat the same routine every day, practicing different exercises, resonance, tone, range? Or should I focus in only one aspect for a while? What do you What do you recommend? Thanks for all you do. It's totally worth. Hugs. Thank you. Hugs. Hugs back. It's like a virtual hug. I feel like I'm a big caliper. Anyway, variety is the spice of life. That's not to suggest that we should quickly move on from skills that maybe we haven't quite done to our satisfaction. but sometimes we have to learn something else in order to get the kind of satisfaction that we're trying to achieve. What immediately comes to my mind is precision of vowel alignment. So I talk about vowel alignment an awful lot on the channel, and I just demonstrated it a moment ago, right? Those vowels are resonating, or in other words, sound basically the same. We would say that they are in alignment. My voice is delivering a consistent response, though I'm changing vowels through 5 different vowels. Oftentimes, with vocalists who are new to that practice, they will get to a certain point where we can't seem to get beyond it. And even though most literature would suggest that you shouldn't really start working on registration event technique, in other words, singing above the secondo passaggio, singing across the break, you ought not bother with that practice until your vowel alignment is really quite dialed in the normal or thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, your chest voice range. Thing is, in working on the technique to be able to sing across the registration event, in my experience, the people with whom I have been working learn to hear more acutely how their vowels sound and develop a more acute sense of how they feel on the vocal fold and how their body is working to support that. And in so doing, the alignment in the chest voice range, the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, starts to get better and better and better quite rapidly. So we're working on a different skill that we then apply. It just kind of filters down in a way. It's not quite learning by osmosis, but it sometimes sounds that way. The progress can be so fast in the regular range of the voice, the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice range. So my advice to you is pay attention to what's not working, pay attention to what is working, leverage what's working against what's not, and continue to throw some variety into your practice regimen. If for no other reason, putting all the rest of that aside, if for no other reason that you don't just redo the same things over and over and over again, because after a certain point, pattern behavior starts to take over and the learning doesn't, again, this is purely my opinion, but the learning doesn't really go in the same way, and it's not as useful in other areas of your studies. So it's like if you have a habitual response, if someone throws a ball and you just habitually catch it after a while, then the ball may come here and you might still put your hand there and it's not going to help you catch the ball. The ball is gone by you because you've just got this habitual response of putting your hand there. Doing the same sequence of vowels over and over and over and over again without consciously thinking about that sequence becomes a little bit, in my mind, like that habitual response of just reaching for the ball as it's coming towards you, but missing it when it's slightly off to one side. This is why in the warm-up videos on my channel, there's a basic sequence of vowels that I'm going off of, and I do that in order to help, hopefully help you learn about alignment of your voice, alignment of the vowels, but I also mix it up, and I put different vowels in different places, and I use different sequences, and sometimes I turn it around backwards to keep you hopefully listening consciously to what it is you're singing so that you are consciously aware of the alignment of the vowels and how it's all working. Do you have exercises or tips on how to increase range to sing high notes? Somehow when I sing certain songs, they won't suit my voice, but the lower songs do. Yes. There's loads of different videos on it, actually. If you do a search of my channel for how to sing high notes, I think there's even a playlist. If I'm right about that, I'll put it in the description or I'll put a link, one of the two. How to sing high notes. There's a variety of different stuff in that playlist, mostly focused on registration event technique. And there's also a 3-part series that is How to Sing High Notes, Part 1, 2, and 3. You can find that. That one is geared towards male-built vocals, so that you can still think about the concepts in it if the gender identity doesn't apply, but you would have to adjust the ranges appropriately. Additionally, I do high note boot camp once a year, though normally I would do the enrollment period at the end of March and April, but I may kind of put that off for a little time, the current environment being what it is. I'm happy with my voice, but would like to learn to obtain more volume or power from my voice naturally, without sounding like I'm straining. Power is a function. Power and volume are functions of resonance and airflow. So the more efficiently your vocal fold is adducting or meeting, and by efficient I mean that the muscle engagement and the subglottic air pressure, the airflow from beneath, and the adduction or closure of the vocal fold are meeting in parity. So the opposing forces almost cancel one another out. You'll get the most amount of resonance from your voice. That resonance is equivalent to power and volume. There are certain limits to that depending on your instrument. So your voice may not ultimately be as crushingly loud as another person's voice, but you can certainly work with that efficiency to get the most amount of power and resonance out of your voice. Additionally, I would suggest that the perception of power is just as valuable to the listener as actually what it might be. Case in point, the singer's formant is what makes our voices cut through mixes. So it's this EQ area, equalization area, between 2 and 5 kilohertz depending on the person's voice. So, male constructed voices will be a little lower, female constructed voices will be a bit higher. The difference is quite noticeable if I sing without it. If I sing with it. That brilliance will come through the mix, and that is typically perceived of as being projection. So your listeners will think of that as you projecting or being powerful. So in developing the resonance, develop your singer's formant. There's a few exercises, I think it's called mask resonance on my channel, that can get you started with that. Develop those things, power and volume will come naturally. I'm fond of saying that volume is the natural consequence of a well-aligned system. So when you have good vowel alignment, when you have good engagement, and things are working efficiently, then you will generate volume quite naturally. What's the best way to improve pitch? I'm a tenor. 2 things: use of your instrument and aural skills. So use of your instrument, good apagio breath management technique, good alignment and adduction of the vowels. Everything is working in harmony. In other words, the system isn't deficient in any places. It's not going to get in its own way. And your concept of the next pitch that you are about to sing will come through. That then leaves aural skills, conceptualizing where the pitch is. That's solfege. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Practicing your solfege develops relative pitch. Relative pitch makes your ability to accurately predict where your next note is going to be much more acute. So when you're singing do, so, if, for example, like the 5th of the scale was the next note in your melody, then you can very accurately know where that pitch is and you will go directly to it. And because you're going directly to it, there will be no weird tensions in the voice where you're kind of greasing up to a pitch or something to that effect. That's typically what happens. You hear vocalists scooping up to pitches all the time. That is usually because they're not really aiming exactly for where the pitch is. They're coming in a little low and having to grease up to it. That creates additional vocal tension. It usually results in us being flat. Work on your solfege. You'll accurately know where those pitches are going to be, and you'll go directly to them, and your intonation will improve. What vocal exercises are good for improving chord closure? Cool question. Short vowel sound exercises will help you to balance the airflow and vocal fold adduction. Probably my favorite consonant vowel combination is we. You hear it quite frequently. We, 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 we. The W is a very easy consonant to start a phrase with. There's no risk of a glottal attack, which is ultimately self-defeating. Furthermore, it's not as challenging as an H, though at some point, progressing on to the H is very, very helpful in terms of checking your arpeggio breath management technique. So while the exercise may start with we want to be able to do he, with basically the same, well, not basically, with the same tone quality, no glottal attack, just a nice clean articulation. That tells us that we're staying engaged throughout the phonation process, inhaling and exhaling. That start, stop will really help to balance out the airflow and the vocal fold engagement. And as long as you keep on listening for a full sound, a complete sound, then you will gravitate towards a nice, efficient closure of the vocal fold. Now, if you have a habit of singing with a very much abducted or separated vocal fold, it may take a little bit longer, maybe a bit more challenging. I still think the we exercises are the best in that regard. Are you a Christian? You seem very nice and patient during every exercise. God bless you. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate that. When I saw that comment come in, I also responded to it in the comments. I'm going to actually pivot on this one because I don't think it should matter at all. I feel that in every one of us, we are born into this life and we're given this great opportunity to learn and grow. And I see that brilliance in everyone that I meet. Now, unfortunately, sometimes that goes down from there and things don't always end well, but very frequently it goes up from there. And so I try to look upon every person with the knowledge that we're all in this together, we're all here. We all are here, hopefully, to learn and to grow, and I cannot think of any reason why one wouldn't be kind to another person until we've been shown otherwise. So patience and kindness to me are something that I try to cultivate. I certainly do better on some days than others, but to me, it is part of what it is to be human, and I am glad that it comes through. So thank you. I hope that all of this helps. I hope it sheds some light on your questions. Thank you so much for them. I love the questions. They're really, really fun, and I enjoy making these community question videos. I will wish you well. Take really good care of your voices, enjoy singing, and hopefully we'll see you again. Bye.